Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a card whose definition I had to look up, which is called indolence. So the words associated with this are laziness, inactivity, dislike of work, lethargy and sluggishness. So you've got a lot of inertia associated with this card, and if we look closely there's no water flowing hardly, a lot of stagnation in the background, stagnant black pools, and you've not got a lot of colour there, not a lot of fire or water, nothing going on. And Crowley calls this the apex of unpleasantness, and he says it's like the morning after the night before, only there was no night before, so we've just got the after effects of what the morning is going to give us. And one of the problems or difficulties I encountered in making this tutorial on this card is that a lot of people on the net have really strayed from the original meaning of the card, and in books as well, and they've essentially said that this is all to do with not defining your boundaries, so you're giving and giving and giving until you've got not a lot of energy or spirit left. But that really, if we look closely at what Mr. Crowley says, that really isn't what he intended for the card. So I don't know how these misinterpretations come about, because one person will say it and then I think people will obviously review that book and then copy it, and then we get a whole multitude of people actually just saying the same thing, and it strays from what he actually says in the Book of Thoth. So we'll go ahead and follow through what he actually intended for the card. It's not that I'm putting down what people can apply to the card, but these particular tutorials are to stick with what was intended, because I think a lot of other packs do lend themselves better to for people just to have their intuition flow off in different directions. But there's a lot of symbology in this deck which was actually put there for a reason, so we'll go ahead and let's say look at what he originally intended, and with that in mind we'll just briefly recap the pleasure card, which was just a sense of pleasure in its purest form, which is close to our heart. It's associated with the 6th Sephiroth, which is Tiphareth on the middle pillar, and as we descend from that into the 7th Sephiroth we get the debauch card, which we've also met, and that is about going into excesses in our life, whether it be drink, drugs, or just outright just immersing yourself in pleasure for the sake of it, just to hide the fact that you're not fulfilled. So there's a whole range that can actually cover, from the almost the subconscious day-to-day things to the extreme. And on the 8th position we've got the stagnant indolence here. So Crowley likes us to compare these two cards, and he talks about them in relation to a play from Wagner, which we'll look at more in the next section. So with that in mind we'll move on now and look at the symbology in detail in this card. There's not a great deal, and then we'll go on to the final section, just looking at how it comes across in the spread. Okay, so we'll move on to have a look at what the card itself talks about. As we saw in the first section, we have here a rather dark looking stagnant card with only stagnant pools of water here. We've got the top cups, which are resting on the diseased, unstable lotuses there, and the diseased lotuses here are pouring out water which will not be purified into these cups, and the cups are not even full. So we can see, looking at the card, a lot of inertia, stagnation, representing our life at the moment. And it's very different really to the Rider-Waite looking card with its yellows and reds, with a man walking away from what he's collected here to do something different. In terms of its classification on the Tree of Life, as all the 8s are, we've got this association with Hod, ruled by Mercury here, communication, intellect, that sort of thing. So quite far away from the purity of the Ace of Cups in Keter here, and the pleasure card, the 6 of Cups, is here in direct communication with Keter, and the debauch card was here. So we've got this rapid degeneration of the energy of the Suit of Cups after the 6. Its position in the 4 worlds are the Hod and Briar here. The wands would be here, swords and discs in the final tree. So those are just laid on top of each other with this on the top. The decan here would be, we've got the first decan, which is 0 to 10 degrees of Pisces, and it's ruled by this little creature here called Saturn, which astrologically can be quite difficult, especially when it's paired with Pisces. Pisces, it's all about compassion, emotions, feelings, sensitivity, spirituality, fantasy, and its negative side, drugs, escapism, that sort of thing. So we've got the cold harshness of Saturn, which dominates over the sensitivity of Pisces. The black of Saturn pours into the blue of Pisces, and we get just this black muddy card. So that's it in terms of the classification of the card and the astrology. So looking at the symbology here, we've just got this drooping lotuses, so there's no sunlight, the energy of the Ace is lost. I feel as if we've had the light sort of sucked out of us. So we've got no rain, no emotions flowing, no feelings flowing, we've just got this inertia. The broken handles of the cups here. So we're not receptive to pleasure or happiness, we're just stuck. So we need time to feel as if we need to heal ourselves, and that does take time and effort. The lower cups here are not exactly filled to the brim, so either that or they're empty. So this again just indicates a lack of emotional nourishment, and all this in the background is this stagnation here. So our life is not really fertile at the moment. We lack creativity, or as Crowley states, we can't cultivate anything in our life at the moment. In terms of symbology, that's pretty much it. So quotes from the Book of Thoth. Time and sorrow have descended upon pleasure is one quote. A second quote, the card is not exactly the morning after the night before, but very nearly. The difference is that the night before has not happened, so we've not even had the pleasure of the night before, we just have the aftermath. And compare with the last card, which is a debauch card. It represents the opposite and complementary era. One is a garden of Kundry, the other is a palace of Klingza. So what he's saying is that the 7 of Cups is an overindulgence in its pleasure, and this card is the opposite. But both are not the correct way forward for personal or spiritual growth. So in both of these cards we get a gross distortion of energy, or this energy of pleasure, and what he says is in the drama of Parzival, this is Wagner's drama, we encounter a mysterious creature called Kundry. He says in the domain of the Grail, this Kundry appears as a wild woman, unkempt, shabby, and a repulsive crone. Which this is a rather glamorized version of that, but it's rather dark. That's the dark aspect of Kundry. But he also says, on the other side of the mountains, however, in the magic garden of the sorcerer, Klingsor, she appears as a beautiful maiden. So he's comparing the debauch card and the indolence card with Kundry, who either appears as a beautiful maiden, which would be the representing the debauch card, or it would be shabby, unkempt, and the dark woman, which would be the in the domain of the Grail. So if we look at the divinatory meanings of this card, so as I said, many people interpret this card as overextending yourself, but what this card is really meaning is that we've really got stagnation in our life at the moment, with no interest in friends or personal projects, and this affects us emotionally and mentally. It's like not wanting to participate in pleasure, and we can be even deliberately denying ourselves it. So it's lack of effort, and this may be due to personal issues from our past, or the fact that we just can't see any point to our life at the moment. So quite like the debauch card, it can be a reaction to feeling empty in our life, and that nothing really fulfills us. It's just that this is a completely opposite way of expressing that emptiness. If you're looking, or choose to look at the reversed aspect of the card, then you're looking at long-term depression, emotional problems over a long period of time, even suicidal thoughts. With regards to crystals, something like carnelian can help, but I'll talk about that just in the final section, and we'll just use we'll now go on to the divinatory application of the card. Okay, on to the last section of the video, and if we pull the indolence card out as the first card above the significator in the Celtic cross, then the spread would have this energy of inertia sort of as a central point of the reading. So we would need to then look at what factors actually are contributing to that and how that can be overcome. So crossing it, these are just a few examples. We could have the Three of Discs, and Three of Discs, as we know, is all about work. So we would be looking at situations in the work setting whereby we're not feeling fulfilled. We feel maybe we haven't got the job we want, the promotion that we want, or the sense of job satisfaction that we need. So those are the sort of issues that would arise from those two cards together. The luxury card is all about emotional discontent. There is with the luxury card, there is a sense of having attained things, but there's a sense of boredom with it. So this goes hand in hand with the stagnation things, which means, again, we need to look at why we're not feeling emotionally fulfilled. Going to the Suit of Wands, and the Seven of Wands Valor is all about striving, and rather using up much of your energy in pursuit of a goal, or even a situation that you're trying to manage and keep at bay. So it could be that after that period whereby we've used a lot of our resources, we do actually end up in a sense of feeling defeated, and that would lead to this sense of stagnation and inertia, which would follow afterwards, because we've used up all our energies here in the Wands. Going on to the Suit of Swords, all about emotional heartbreak, sorrow, which often can result in a feeling of not being bothered and not being emotionally fulfilled in any way, so we just retreat into ourselves, and inertia just creeps up until our whole life can be representative of this energy. So people can often, as a result of the heartbreak in the Three of Swords, just have the life sucked out of them. Another area that the swords can interfere would be the Seven of Swords, which is all about self-doubt and just a general weakness in one's confidence. And again, that can result in not going out into the world and expressing yourself fully. With the if the Three of Cups crosses, then it may be indicative that we're not giving our full attention to friendships that they deserve, and we need to really look again at why that is the case. Is it us? Is it the nature of the friendships themselves? So that could be a two-way thing. Either it's us as not giving enough because we're brooding about things in our life, or maybe it's just that the friendships are not fulfilling enough for us. So the cards again would be the Nine of Discs, which is the gain card. So if the gain crosses, then that would be positive in the sense that it's saying that there are things out there in terms of getting what you want, and applying the energy to go after the material success and comforts. It would actually be very worthwhile to do, because the gain card is very positive. It's a good ending to have, but there's obviously in the Eight of Cups a sense of inertia there to go about getting this. And the Four of Swords would just be taking time out to see just what is the problem that is happening in this card. So that is like getting a different perspective and taking time out. It's taking time out from this, so it could actually be getting some counselling, going to see friends and discussing things, and getting some feedback. It's almost like time out from yourself, the Four of Swords. And last card we'll use is just the Nine of Wands, which is all about tapping into your sort of subconscious reserves of energy. So that would be encouraging that person to move out of the stagnant pools of the Eight of Cups, to use resources that they're denying or have forgotten about or need encouragement to find. And again, that can come through friendships, which was represented in the Three of Cups. So there's loads of ways in which this energy can be modified by the surrounding cards in the reading. So you don't need to modify the meaning of the Indolence card itself. It is what it is, and what Crowley intended it to be. But we just need the courage to see that that's what he wanted it to be, and then move forward from there, and use positive cards as best we can to get the person to move out of this situation that they find themselves in. Okay, I think that is pretty much a wrap for this tutorial, so thanks for watching, take care. I hope you're all inspired in your own ways, and hopefully see you again. Bye.